Hey guys, how's it going? This is Natenator. Thad was 12 years old. He lived on the 4th floor of the Primrose Apartments with his mum, 2 little brothers, half-sister, and niece. Sad story. His mother worked as a CNA at St. Vincent. Nights. Thad's father had been in the ground for 3 years, shot in the driveway of the house where the family had once lived. Likely the victim of a gang initiation. There were photos of him with the kids all over the apartment. Little Thad had been a good student, a good kid, a talented artist, talented enough to make a difference. Had been. Lately, his teacher had reported that Thad was falling asleep in class and falling behind on his work. He ignored his friends and family, while his brothers played video games or rode bikes in the parking lot. Thad would lock himself in his room. His drawings, once of animals and fantasy creatures, had become much darker. Scary things with sharp claws and teeth. Once, a month before, Lydia Wheeler, the mother, called 911 in a panic. When she'd arrived home at 5:30 a.m., Thad was missing. 3 sets of cops were dispatched to search the premises. They found the boy an hour later, fast asleep in a little closet. "Right across from the janitor's closet?" Nunez asked, dreading the answer. "Yeah," the other officer said, frowning. "How'd you know?" When asked why he did it, Thad responded that he simply liked it there. Sleepwalking, everyone thought. But the police had been called to Lydia Wheeler's apartment twice more since then. Once by Lydia, because Thad was hitting his head against the wall and wouldn't stop. And once by a neighbor, because Thad was wandering aimlessly through the halls, clutching a serrated steak knife. Lydia told the cops that Thad's nighttime sojourns to the little closet on the 1st floor had become a recurring incident. 3 times a week, she would find him there, asleep on the dirty linoleum floor. She was looking for a therapist. The next time Thaddeus Wheeler inspired a 911 call, by the sister, Rochelle this time, Nunez and Rusty were one of the 2 pairs sent. 12-year-old African-American male, the dispatcher had said, locked in a bedroom, armed with a knife, possibly a second person with him. Nunez and Rusty met Rochelle, a chubby girl of about 19, in the hallway outside of the apartment. A toddler and 2 school-aged boys huddled at her feet. "There's a man in there," Rochelle cried. "I went to the door to call Thad for dinner, and I heard him talking to someone. This deep man's voice responded. Then Thad started screaming, 'No, no, no!' and something slammed against the wall. I tried to force the door, but it's locked, and I think there's something pushed against it." "Did you hear what the man said to Thad?" Rusty asked calmly. Rochelle shook her head. "I think I'm going crazy. I couldn't make out what he said, but it sounded like... I don't know, it's bullshit." "What?" Rusty asked. "I thought he sounded like my stepfather, but my stepfather's been dead for years." Rusty herded Rochelle and the children toward the elevator. Guns drawn, Nunez and the other 2 officers entered the apartment. From one of the rooms they heard a child crying. Coming up on the closed door, Nunez and the second cop positioned themselves. The burliest of the 3 turned his shoulder, took a running start, and rammed the door. Bang! The door slid open. A nightstand had been placed against it. Nunez nearly dropped his gun in shock. The must and potpourri smell hit him in the face like a wave. Little Thad sat on the floor between 2 sets of bunk beds, clad in a wife beater and boxer shorts, holding a steak knife. Up and down his arms and legs were deep, jagged, self-inflicted cuts. His face was swollen and snotty. Upon seeing the 2 guns pointed at him, he dropped the knife and let out a small cry. "We're not gonna hurt you, kid," Nunez heard himself say. The room was completely trashed. There were pictures on the walls. Horrible demons, mutilated humans and animals, flames, torture implements. Upon closer inspection, the drawings were determined to have been completed with both marker and Thad's blood. The paramedics in the Department of Mental Health were called. The apartment was thoroughly searched for the esoteric second party, the man with the deep voice. No one was found. Nunez and Rusty approached little Thad as he sat, shivering on a gurney, the paramedic bandaging his arms. "Hey, buddy," Nunez said amicably. "I'm Officer Carlos. Do you mind if we ask you a few questions?" Thad shrugged. "Okay. Your sister told us she heard you talking to someone in your room. Can you tell us who?" Thad stared. "You're not gonna get them into trouble, buddy. We just want to talk to them. Make sure they're okay. We're not gonna arrest them or anything." "You can't arrest him," Thad said. "He's not human." "Oh?" Nunez responded. "Is he a ghost?" "He's my dad. He's dead. He died, and the angels sent him to hell. He comes and sees me at night. He tells me what to do so me and my family don't have to go to hell with him when we die." "Oh? What does he tell you to do?" Thad shook his head. "He says I have to draw demons every day, and whenever I have a bad thought, I have to hurt myself." The DMH lady came back then, handing a 5585 detainment form to the paramedics. The paramedics lifted the gurney into the ambulance. Rusty stayed back to talk to them. Nunez, brain buzzing, went to start his report. The druggies see their dead family members. That's what Officer Anderson had said. Officer Liu had spoken to his partner, while his partner was in the squad car talking to dispatch. He'd seen Michael's corpse reanimate and assault him. Dolores had seen Michael's corpse hanging in the closet. Michael was alive. Modesto had seen Marisol's ex-husband. The ex-husband was in Washington. Rochelle had heard Thad's father's voice. Thad said his dead father came in and visited him. What the heck was going on in that apartment building? The next time Nunez was dispatched to the Primrose was the last. It was some old neighbor lady. He couldn't have said which one. There weren't many tenants left. Of the 17 units that comprised the Primrose, only 10 were filled. This lady had heard yelling coming from the apartment across the hall. A man with a deep voice, and either a woman or a young child. The dispatchers immediately recognized the apartment number. Thaddeus Wheeler. Nunez and Rusty used the back entrance. Immediately, Nunez was overtaken by the smell. Musty basement and potpourri. Rusty didn't notice. She headed straight for the elevators. Nunez looked to his right. Thaddeus Wheeler stood in the hallway, between the janitor's storage and the underused little closet where he liked to sleep. Rusty had already disappeared through the double doors. Nunez knew he should have gone after her, but he didn't want to give the kid the opportunity to sneak away. Thaddeus Wheeler was a very troubled little boy. He needed to be institutionalized, not for 72 hours under 5585 hold. Long term. Until his bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia, or whatever drove him to argue with himself and paint in his own blood, was sufficiently tamed by medication. Slowly, outstretched hands in full view of the boy, Nunez started down the hallway. Thaddeus smiled at him when he got close. "Hi, Officer Carlos," Thad said. "Have you figured it out yet?" "Figured out what?" Nunez asked conversationally. "What I am." Thad's smile grew wider, toothed and maniacal. The musty, sweet stench was suffocating. "Let me give you a hint," Thad said. Then his voice changed. It became monotonous, an alien mockery of a human voice. "This will all burn," Thad said, in red-headed corpse Michael's voice. "You will burn with it." Nunez backpedaled. The smell was intoxicating him, drowning him. Then he noticed Thad's bare arms. The arms that had been violently slashed up several weeks before with a serrated steak knife. There were no scars on those arms. What? Nunez sputtered. Thaddeus Wheeler. The thing that looked like Thaddeus Wheeler laughed. "Bzzzt, wrong answer," he boomed in a grown man's voice. "I am whatever the fuck I want to be." Then, lightning fast, he pulled open the closet door and vanished within. Burning adrenaline, Nunez followed. He found himself alone in an empty storage closet.